Hello everyone, myself Nishitha, Assistant Professor, Department of CSIT, working at MLR Institute of Technology. In previous sessions, we have seen about file sharing, file mounting and how the files can be protected from one system to another system. So in this session, we are going to see about file system protection. So let us see the overview of this presentation. So in this overview of this presentation, we are going to see about file system protection and file system structure. So how we are going to protect your files from unauthorized users and how is the file system structure we are going to see in this session. So first, file system protection. In computer system, a lot of users' information is stored. The objective of this operating system is to keep safe the data from user to improper access to the system. So whenever the data required, so and so person only used to store the information and keep it safe with the security keys. So the unauthorized person cannot access that data or that files. Why? Because until and unless the permission given for that particular file or can be accessed through the user only for the person who is authorized and given password key to that file. Only the person who is given permission to access only the files can be accessed to that user. Otherwise, the files cannot be accessed and they cannot be kept secret. So protection can be provided in number of ways. So protection can be in a number of ways. We can see how we are going to protect our mobile phones by keeping by fingerprint or face ID or any password or any patterns. So how we are going to protect the laptop? For a single laptop system, we might provide protection by locking the computer in a desk drawer. Secret key or whatever the password you are giving for your laptop, then only he can access. Otherwise, he cannot access. Why? Because you are protecting your laptop with some passwords from unauthorized users. So types of accessing these files. So the files which have direct access for any user have the need of protection. So files have different access or it may be accessed directly for their need of protection. The files which are not accessible to other user does not require any kind of protection. So the files which are unwanted, that cannot be protected and everyone can use that files. Why? Because we did not protect any files from the which are not necessary or which are not required. For that, protection is not required. So the mechanism of the protection provide the facility of the controlled access by just limiting the types of accessing of a file. So whatever the files required, only particular limit or particular files only we are protecting, and that files are protected with some passwords, and that passwords are given to only authorized users. Why? Because you are protecting that files from the unauthorized users. Access can be given or not given to any user depends on several factors. Yes. Why? Because the user can depend on that file whenever only he have the accessing permission. Other than he cannot give that, he cannot access that file. One of which is the type of access required. So some require some accessing permissions. So several different types of operations can be controlled. What are the operations performed to protect our files are read, write, execute, append and delete, then list. So what do you mean by read? So read is nothing but you are only reading a file. You cannot do the operation like write and execute. So read in the sense only you can read that particular file. Next, write is nothing but writing or rewriting the file. Any updations or any lines you want to add for the particular text document, then you can write to the file. Next, execute. Loading the file, and after loading, the execution of the process starts. After the execution of the C program you are writing, then you start its execution. Until and unless you did not complete the writing or loading the program doesn't start its execution. Next, append. Writing the new information to the already existing file. Editing must be done at the end of the existing file. Must be done at the end of the existing file. Whatever the information is already existing with the file, it can be edited or done at the end of the existing file. delete. Deleting the file which is of no use and it has some spaces for the another data. So whenever our disk is full, I want to insert some new file. So in that case, what you are going to do? We are going to delete unwanted files from the particular disk and adding the new files in it. So deleting and giving the space for the new files. List the name and attributes of the file. So list of naming to the particular files and giving attributes for a file. That is what about this access permissions of a file. Read, write, execute, append, delete and list. Next, how we are going to access control this file system protection. There are different methods used by different users to access any file. So whatever the access control can be done for the files, they are used by a number of access control users. The general way of protection is to associate identity depend access with all the files and directories and list called access control list. So whatever the files and directories which are kept in the list, that are nothing but access control list, and these are used to specify the names of the users and types of access associated with each of the user. So who are associated for the accessing permissions for that user only can associate so and so control of that list of the files. The main problem with the access list is their length. So if the file or any access list is full, then it cannot insert or cannot update new files. If we want to allow everyone to read a file, we must list all the users with read access. So if n number of users are there, if all the users want to read the files, so we need to give some limit. So limit of the users can only read that particular files. This technique has two undesirable consequences. So we are having two undesirable consequences for access control list. Constructing such a list may be tedious and unrewarding task. It may be a tedious and unrewarding task. It may be a unrewarding task means we cannot complete the task on time and we cannot give the limit of the time for the particular users to read that files. Especially if we do not know in the advance the list of the users in the system. So who are not in the list, we cannot just send the data to read or send the files for the particular users. Previously, the entry of any directory is to fixed size, but now it changes to the variable size, which results in the complicated space management. So whatever the fixed size is not up to the limit, if it is the variable size increases, then the complications happen here. So due to this due to the space management, the disk maybe gets full or it can be deleted or it can be any buffer happens. That is what getting errors from inserting or based on the length of the file or size of the file. These problems can be resolved by use of consistent version of the access list. So this can be done for the condensed version of the access list. To condense the length of the access control list, many systems recognize 3 clarification of users in connection with each file. So to recognize this problem, there are 3 conditions for 3 clarifications of user in which we are connecting with each file. What are they? It may be any owner, any group or any universe. So owner is the user who has created the file. Yes. Why? Because who creates the file only gives the permission to the particular user to get an update or get the view option for the particular user. Next, group. A group is a set of members who have similar needs as they are sharing the same file. So group is nothing but a team. A team consists some set of users. So that users can share the files from one user to another user who are present in that group. Whereas universe, in the system, All other users under the category are called as universe. So all other users which are under the same category, they are under some universe. That is how the universe of the particular users can access the files in an system. This is how the owner group universe can be controlled through this access control list. Next, other protection approaches means other than the file system protection accesses by owner group and universe, other than that, what are the different approaches for other protection approaches? So the access to any system is also controlled by password. Yes, the access can be done through some passwords. If the use of password is random and it is changed often, this may result to the limit effective accessing of a file. So until and unless the password used for 5 times, then it exceeded or a limit crossed, then they cannot access the file. So using in an effective manner only that password will work. Next, the use of password has few disadvantages. The number of passwords are very large, so it is difficult to remember the large passwords. Yes, if the number consists of 10 numbers or 10 special characters, to remember that password is very difficult. If one password is used for all the files, then once it is discovered, all the files are accessible. Protection in all are none basis. So if the one file or all the files consist of only one password, which is accessible with that one password, the protection is very accessible easily and everyone had the information from all the files. So we cannot protect in that case. So next is file system structure. In this file system structure, a file system is a method that helps in organizing and managing data on different storage devices such as hard drive and pen drive. So we can store this information in the basis of maybe a hard disk drive or any pen drive. File system also provide efficient access to users when they can enable disks for easy data storage. So they can easily enable the disk data storage when they are location and recovery. So recovery means retrieving or any data and location means where the file is present. So most operating system use a layer for each task including file system. So it includes each layer for each system for protecting the file. Each layer of the achieve system is responsible for specific function. So for every layer, the achieve system is responsible for some specific functions. So let us see the file system structure. File system structure is file structure. It is logical storage unit, and next is collection of related information. Logical storage unit is nothing but it consists some logical block numbers and which can be accessed through some files. Through that numbers only we can access that files. Collection of related information. If we want the related information so and so project, so we can get the information in the process of getting the information by project. We can get through collected whatever related information can be done. All the users can gather and get the information collectively. So file system in the storage unit. So file system can be used in the storage unit. The file system is organized into layers, maybe n number of layers. What are the layers in the file system structure we are going to see. The file system structure refers to how the files and directories are organized and stored on the physical storage devices. So what are the physical storage devices? Nothing but HDD, SSD, whatever the required device drivers which are using for the files to share or organize it. This include the layout of file system data structure such as directory structure, file allocation table and inodes. So we are using here file data structure, file system data structure, nothing but directory structure and file allocation table, and we are using inodes to provide efficient and convenient access to the files on disk. OS imposes one or more file systems to allow the data to be stored, means it to storing and to locate and retrieve the data easily from one system to another system. So let us see, first one is layered file system, how the layers are formed from one layer to another layer. So the image describe how the file system is divided into different layers and also the functionality of each layer. When an application requests the information is sent to the information source, which consists of metadata for the data and structure. So it consists some layers, and each layer has some functionalities and they have some information regarding for the metadata for which data and structure. The hard drive is divided into many parts and sectors, and the installation first module determines which physical block and application needs, whatever the physical blocks and application needs. The overall data is divided into several logical blocks. Data is stored on and retrieved from the hard drive. So data is stored and retrieved from the hard drive. The hard drive is divided into many parts and sectors and also responsible for managing free space. Free space means removing the unwanted files and getting the free space for the free space management. So first one is application programs. Here the users starts the programs and gives as input to logical file system. So what the application programs do here, the user starts writing the programs and take it as input and give it to logical file system. Next, logical file system gives the logical block numbers. It gives logical block numbers, and these logical block numbers are accessed with files as their B1, B2, B3 and so on. Whatever the files required, they can be organized through block numbers. And basic file name, whatever the files required, they have submitted and taken as input, and they give us output for the particular block numbers. That is what basic file system. And input output control, whatever the input output functions have been done with the files, that can be managed through this input output function. Devices, or it checks all the devices. It checks all the devices of a particular files. So this is how the layered file system. First one is application program, then logical file system, then file organization module, then basic file system, then input output control, and then devices. There are 6 layers in this layered file system. So next one is file allocation table, how the files are allocated by each of this file by using file allocation table. So file allocation table is a file created by Microsoft. It is a file created by Microsoft to support small disk and simple formats. So it supports only small disks and it can have some simple formats. The file system is called partition table. So the partitions have been done for each file, which may be of in the form of size of the GBs, maybe megabytes. Uses a table keep track of the volumes. Heaps means memory. FAT is used to overcome the shortcomings of mounting partition names and has slightly faster access. It has a shortcoming of mounting portion means attaching the files through some names, and has slightly faster, it can have faster access to that files. So FAT, the system creates an index table for data storage on the device or any system. So it has to create some index table for that data, and it has some device or any system. The index table contains the entry table, data stored in local area for each data. So index, this is the index table and how the data is stored in local area. The operating system searches for the group number of extension, each extension of the file until it reaches its end. So whatever the file starts, and until and unless it goes to the end of the file table, then only it gets exist. So it supports a maximum volume of 4 GB. So it consists of only 4 GB of the memory which is having the supporting system. So here directory entry. So directory entry here text.text with the start block is 3. So our index starts from 0, then 1, 2, so on 5. So starting is 3, so we are taking as third block and we are having with the length is 5. How we are going to insert the data in file allocation table. Next, inode. Inode is a file structure in the Unix operating system that contains important information about the files in the file. So it consists some file structure which is having the Unix operating system and it has the information about all the files from one file to another file. When a file is created in Unix, a certain number of inodes, windows are also created. So windows are also created. Usually about 1% of the file system's disk space is allocated to the inode table. So in this only 1% of the file system disk space is allocated. Why? Because 1% other than the 1% no other file can be inserted. Only the disk space consists of 1% for each one file system. So how the inode works here? So starts from attribute and direct block. So direct block means direct directories and accessing through files. Whereas single directory, it consists of single directory with single file. So single directory, single file. Whereas it is double directory, it consists of two directories and having only files. So double directory means double indirect means consisting of two directories with files. Whereas triple directory is consisting of three folders, that is 3 directories with 3 hierarchical order. Then it consists of triple directories, triple indirect. So for these directories all are having some files. This is how the inodes for single indirect, double indirect and triple indirect. So for each single indirect, it is having single directory with single files. Double directory means it is having 2 steps of directories and files. Whereas triple directory is 3 sets of positions of directories and having their own files. So in this session, we have seen about file system protection and how the files are shared. So file sharing. If you have any doubts, you can comment in comment box. Thank you.